Hello again, Erin here with Path of Integration. I wanted to talk today about this topic of self-compassion and non-judgment when we are working on our own healing and our own transformation. A lot of times there can be a lot of self-criticism and judgment around maybe things we've done in the past, or criticism, self-criticism around why we haven't, done this or that, or why we're not healing faster, or why we're not, in this certain place where we want to be. And I just wanted to share that how important it is to really be gentle with ourselves, really be gentle when we're on this healing path, because it does take time to move through all these phases of integration and healing and like becoming whole. It took us however many decades to get to where we are now, where we even realized we needed to work on ourselves. And so, it kind of makes sense that it's going to take some time to unlearn those things and kind of reintegrate into who we need to be and who we want to be and what is the highest and best kind of expression of self. So, it's just sort of a trap we can fall into. I'm kind of speaking specifically to depression, but it can also be, for other things that people are working on. But just really be mindful of that. I wanted to share something. This is a book that I'm really fond of. Pick it up if it's something that interests you. It's called Anatomy of the Spirit: The 7 Stages of Power and Healing. Carolyn Myss. This has been one of my favorites on my journey. And there's just one couple lines I wanted to read. She says, "By far the strongest poison to the human spirit is the inability to forgive oneself or another person." So again, this goes back to forgiveness. Forgiveness for ourselves and forgiveness for others, how we might have been wronged or how we may have wronged others or ourselves. Because that is like a poison. It is a toxicity that we can carry and like infect ourselves with trauma or pain, or in this lack of forgiveness. It's like a recurring toxicity. So we want to really be gentle and bring some self-compassion to these things. One of the other things she mentions, when we neglect ourselves emotionally, we not only become emotionally toxic, we bring that toxin into all of our relationships. So these things are kind of all linked, and I just thought I'd share that because I really like her work, and she's really good. So how do we stop that self-critical mind chatter, right? Like, because a lot of it within us, it's sort of this inherent sort of thing. And it can come in the form of, I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, or I'm not healing fast enough, or, oh my gosh, why didn't I see this sooner? Or, oh my gosh, I hurt someone. I can't believe I did that. What was I thinking? Or, oh my gosh, they hurt me. Can't believe my life is this way because of this. And what that does is like it brings in this, I talked a week or so ago about the adverse childhood experiences and how it sort of looks like, like here's our mind, and then we've got these like layers of life that have sort of built up, right? And so we're dealing with all these little pain points that are creating these ripples, right? And if we put too much pressure on ourselves, or if we have a lot of self-judgment and self-criticism, it's like this big pressure, this big pressure that we're sort of pushing down on the pain that we've already experienced, and sort of we're unrealistically asking ourselves to not be feeling it. And so sometimes we just have to feel it and we have to move through it, because if we put all this pressure on what we're experiencing or why we're not going through it fast enough, like it just really actually can slow or prevent the healing, because you get trapped in this whole cycle, and that's not really helpful. So just do your best to kind of use some mindfulness techniques to work on stopping those critical thoughts. Come up with a mantra that works for you, and see if you can like start bringing awareness to your thoughts when they're critical, and just kind of stop them, and don't be critical of the critical thoughts, because again, that's more self-criticism. So really we're aiming at just observing it and kind of looking at it with curiosity instead of more judgment. So we're like, okay, I see you, self-criticism. Yeah, okay, I'm not down with that. We're going to change this pattern. We're going to change this programming. And so mantras can be useful. You can say, I am whole. You can say, I am love. You can come up with a thing special for you, like, I'm going to beat this. There's a Hawaiian healing method I like called Ho'oponopono, and that uses the words or the phrases, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So you're sort of saying this to yourself and kind of asking that you release this toxicity by saying, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you. So I like that one. And I just wanted to share one other thing that was like really helpful for me early on in my personal transformation. I was at a lecture in North India, and it was a Buddhist lecture. Glenn Svensson gave it. He's an Australian Buddhist teacher who was visiting at the time. And this one sentence that he said really struck me, and I'll never forget it. I quoted it in my book somewhere. But basically the effect was, bad people aren't bad people. They're good people that haven't figured out how to deal with their own pain yet. And that really struck me, because when we're on the healing path and if we're honestly starting to look at who we are and where we've been and maybe some things we've done that we're not so proud of, we can kind of fall into this habit of labeling ourselves as bad people. And I know I did, and that was a big deal for me, because I just was spinning in this like, wow, look at all I've done. And that wears on us. It's like heavy. It's like this burden that we carry. And so when I heard that, it was like so freeing for me. And, you know, if you look at it in relation to adverse childhood experiences, like it allowed me in that moment when I really kind of felt that, and maybe I just received it in the right way at the right time, but when I really felt into that, it just made me realize kind of why we do what we do and why we might do things that are outside of our value system, or, you know, it's a need that's not met. And I talk about that a lot in my work. But yeah, it's not that we're bad people. It's that we're good people that have dealt with a lot of pain, and we don't quite have that figured out, how to cope and how to move beyond that. And so I just really liked that one phrase that he said, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. So another way we can work to kind of reduce the self-critical chatter is like with space and time and kind of simplifying our lives, because when we are overstressed, or when we are like always in a hurry and we're always rushing around, you know, that's when we get in this mode of, okay, where am I going next, and what am I doing, and what's my plan, and what needs to happen, and, you know, we get in this very strategic, okay, we got to do this, and we sort of get in this cycle of overthinking. And when we do that, like, it's like the faster the thoughts spin, the more unconscious they are, and the harder it is to bring awareness to that and to these patterns. So as much as you're able, try and slow the thought processes down, and we're trying to bring awareness as much as we can to the thought processes, so that we can talk to ourselves about them and decide if they're good for us or not. So yeah, because reducing the overthinking, I have that in big bold letters here, reduce overthinking. That seems really important. So I hope this video speaks to you when we're thinking of our healing journey and limiting the self-criticism and limiting the judgment, because we really need to be gentle with ourselves as we're moving through this healing process. And you will get through this, and you got to just keep going and yeah, follow the path back to wholeness. Yeah, you got this. All right, see you next time.